Well, hello. Welcome back. This is Shah with another episode of The Place and the Everyday Life Lesson podcast, as always, right? If you don't know what this is about, and this is the first time that you see me here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, this is the place to be more and do more. And we're trying to build more connections and give you more answers on a lot of things in life. So we always start a little bit the same with a quote that I gathered around the topic that we are looking at today. But before we do that, maybe you want to, be so kind and be with us and subscribe on the on Facebook Live here or on YouTube Live, wherever you are watching me. Follow the discussions. We will post more videos than only the place every Tuesday. So yes, follow me on YouTube Live. You would do me a great pleasure. But you also get a lot of cool information as well. If you don't know who I am yet, then you will get that in a minute or so. Yeah. Today, let's see if you can figure it out by just, reading the quote that we have. The only stumbling block is fear of failure. In cooking, you have to have a what the hell attitude. Julia Child said that. And she actually alludes to something like, to overcome fear and failure is something that is really good in life. And cooking gives you that skills. Strange as that may sound, but it is honestly true. I have another for you prepared. Cooking is an art, patience and a virtue. Careful shopping, fresh ingredients, and an unhurried approach are nearly all you need. There is one more thing, love. Love for food and love for those you invite to your table. With the combination of these things, you can be an artist. Keith Floyd said that. So there's a lot of things. So a lot of virtues, virtues and attitudes you need to have, again, like Julia Child said, bring, no pun intended, to the table. I have two more for you. Maybe three. A good cook is like a sorceress who dispenses happiness. Elsa Schiaparelli. I probably murdered her name there. I'm so sorry, Elsa. But I like this quote very much because it's not about bringing food. It's also bringing about something else. Well, I think you kind of guessed already what we're going to talk about today, right? Cookery is not chemistry. It's an art. It requires instincts and taste rather than exact measurements. Marshall Austin. Now, some cooks might, debate that. If if you bake, then you need to have exact measurement. But there is always something, even if I follow the same recipe as my mom did, to the letter, that it comes out slightly different. So there is something special going on with cooking as well. By the way, if you log in for the first time, this is not a cooking show at all. But I just use cooking, I give it away a little bit already, a little bit as a proxy to talk about other things, right? And last but not least, Sophia Loren, who does not know her, famous movie actor from the years past, 60s and the 60s and 70s. The most indispensable ingredient of all good home cooking is love for those you are cooking for, which speaks to me a lot because I always say, what is life about if you don't put it in service of other people? Right? So this kind of connects to that point. Once again, I want to say welcome to my show here, right? It is The Place, but it's actually also episode 194, yes, already of Tell, and we have some announcements to make maybe next week about how the show is going to be. But it's Tell is the Everyday Life Lesson podcast that I do, and you can also find it back on most podcast channels. So if you missed this and you want to listen back to what I said, you can do that as well. I'm a little bit big in this screen, don't you think? I'm just going to do it like this, right? And most of the time, what I do is link the subject that we talk about to one of the 5 life energies. Now, it happened to be so that this topic, before I announce what topic we talk about, actually fits under all 5 life energies. Now, you might wonder what they are, right? We have physical energy, we have mental energy, we have creative energy, we have manifestation energy, and last but not least, we have divine energy. And all these energies, I have first published and described in my book Broken Silence, which is also the sponsor of this show and my podcast. So pick one up if you have not have a copy yet. It's the money is going actually to a non-profit organization to read about that. All right. The place, be more, do more. Once again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It would help us a lot, and it would help you a lot too. In the end, I just changed the settings here a little bit, so I'm a little bit sometimes on or off the camera, just to let you know. We're talking about food today. Do you see that behind me? Yeah. The question is home cooking, is that an art that is going to vanish? Is it something that's going away? And I was just wondering about that. Just actually, to be honest, if I prepare these shows, then it's not always so clear why I pick a subject. But I actually was cooking, and I love to cook. To be honest, I grew up in a household where cooking is normal, right? My mom was an excellent cook, and I know, all boys they say that about their mom, but my mom was truly an excellent cook, and I'm not the only one who's saying it. And so, unfortunately, she is 91 or so right now, and she suffers from Alzheimer. And completely off tangent here is that we started to notice that something was off with her when her cooking was off. Normally, if my mom cooks, there would always be more than enough for some unexpected guest that would fall in the house or come and visit us. The taste is almost always spot on, but all these things were slightly different. Sometimes she had just food for 2 people, where there were 5 people at the table, and the taste was wrong. And in the beginning, when you grew up with the food that I did, and you taste something that your mom didn't go so well, you might even think that there's something wrong with you, because you think, oh, my mom's food needs to be good. But bit by bit, we saw actually that something was wrong with her. And so we have to miss out on something really great. And the food that you see behind me here, that's why I'm telling you that, is actually a lot of the food that I grew up with. There in that upper corner here, this is called satay ayam, which means that's Indonesian, and that is a satay made from chicken. And my microphone, unfortunately, that's here down below on the other side. Sorry, here down below where my microphone is, that is satay kambing, and that is satay made. Satay is meat grilled on small skewers, and that is made of goat meat. So that might be a little bit strange for a lot of people to eat goat meat, but in Indonesia, I can tell you that is quite common, and it's quite well. And then here on this side behind me here, that's just we would say nasi putih. That is just white rice, and the same thing actually is down below here on this side as well. Behind me is a little bit hard to see, right? That's actually nasi goreng, and a lot of people would just say that is fried rice, but it's Indonesian style as well. So that's a little bit what I like to cook, and definitely what I like to eat as well. And that's home. And you could already see from my face that cooking is very close to my heart. Now, I'm not going to turn you into cooks. If you followed me a little bit, a little while ago, I had a friend that I met online in my show, and I interviewed her, and she actually recently published a book Her name is Stephanie, and she wrote an awesome book, How Healthy Food Can Also Be Delicious. She would say freaking delicious, right? Remind me if I forget to actually put a link to her book also in the show notes here. So that would be kind of fun, right? But the point is not only about good and nice food. The point is home cooking. Is that a disappearing art? And if that disappears, are there other things that disappear as well? And I'm focusing a lot to your health that you can get from actually cooking. And there's way more than the obvious things that we do, right? So, so people in life, they would like to achieve more, they do better, maybe they want to be successful and stuff like that. If you think about that, then most of the things, if you say, let's build a house, then there are some fundamentals. There's a foundation. Now, the foundation of life, you could go very philosophical about it, but I'm going just very simple about this, are a couple of things. Air, the air that you breathe. To live, you need to be able to breathe air. For human beings, and most mammals actually, we need to sleep. You don't sleep, you won't be very successful in life. And then, of course, you have to have good nutrition. So that brings me to the topic food at times, to look at that from several angles. How nutrition, how important it is to have a good, a healthy, and if you want to call it that way, a successful life, right? And if you do whatever you want, those three components, right, they need to be there. Some people who come to me for coaching and sometimes consultancy, it's the first three things that I look at. Do you eat well? Do you sleep well? And do you get enough fresh air? Now, that doesn't mean that I always say that. Sometimes I work so much online that I forget actually to go outside on my bike or just run around the block. So I try to do that on a daily basis, or at least, every other day. Just going and walking to my car, and from my car to the dance studio where I teach, that is not really getting fresh air. Fresh air is really, at least for 10, 15 to 20 minutes a day, walking in a park, if you can do so, or somewhere where they have fresh air. But the same thing is, of course, with sleep. Nowadays, a lot of people think that they can actually do with a lot of less sleep, like 4 or 5 hours. But, all research actually proves that that is actually not true. Most people need to have between 6 and 8 hours. And there are sleep techniques where you can do with less, or you can divide your sleep hours in a different way. But it's most people too complicated, right? 6 to 8 hours. And then today we're going to talk about the benefits of home-cooked meals versus not, which of course immediately lands on nutrition. And then it also talks about your physical energy. Let's look a little bit at two statistics as well. Since 1977, home cooking in the United States, that number starts to decline tremendously. And if you so what eat they then? What do they eat then? Well, numbers are a little bit not completely correct, maybe because of COVID. But in 2019. This was the number, and it could be a little bit off, and we have to see where it lands when COVID is gone, if it ever will be gone. But at that time, 40%, 40% of the U.S. adults eat a fast food meal at any given day. I mean, that's a shockingly high number, right? So, and that's not even counting in the numbers, do people eat 3 to 4 meals a day? It's if they do a meal, 40% at least have one fast food meal at any given day. That's incredibly high. 50% of the millennials, which is a more recent research, actually says that they don't like to cook. It comes a little bit from the fact that they don't know how to cook, and it comes from the fact that they didn't grow up in a family where they cook every day like I did. Right? So, all in all, if you wrap up what I'm going to tell you, you could say that people actually who cook home are more happy and more healthy. It's that simple. People who cook more home, they are more happy and they are more healthy, and there are several reasons for that, and we are going to talk about that as well. Yeah? So, now, obviously, a lot of physical benefits of having home cooked meals. There's a lot of, there's a lot of mental health benefits when you do that as well. And if I talk about home cooked meals, let's take this also. Let's make a good definition here. Eh? So it's not only eating out, but there's also, nowadays take out food, right? So order in. So that's still not a home cooked meal. I hope that you understand that, right? It's not about eating home. It's also about cooking home. So if I order McDonald's and I eat at home, it's still not a home cooked meal. All right. Okay. So I hope you I hope you had that as well, right? And okay. So home cooking, if you look at the difference of energies we have, then let's look first at the physical life energies, right? Remember, I said to you there are 5 life energies. The first one is physical energy, and yes, with home cooked meals, you have more control. And with more control, you actually know better what kind of food you get into you, right? You can manage better whether you want to have organic food or not. I once did a whole episode about why organic food is so much better for you. And if it's not only better for you, then it's definitely better for our environment, which in the end will still be better for you. Right, so there are a lot of physical benefits you can manage your calories better. As simple as that is. We all know that we need to take in way less sugar, and if you can, no sugar at all. That is almost impossible if you eat out every day, right? Because you have no control of the ingredients that they put in. Physical, I would also put safety in there. Do you know that, which is also some sort of a physical and a mental energy, but literally physical from getting sick, Do you know that if you get food poison, it's most of the time for the things that you eat outside and not, inside again. If you eat McDonald's inside, that's still outside food. Does that make sense? So there are a lot of physical things, and most people know that, right? Like, okay, that's kind of obvious. I knew that, but I decide to do it anyhow. I decide to put crap in my body because I want to. Now, that doesn't mean, I love restaurants. I love cooking, so I also like how well other people cook. But if you do that on a daily basis, you cannot always go to a restaurant that extremely use well ingredients and produce and stuff like that. So as most normal people do, if we eat a lot outside, even if it's a little bit above the known fast food restaurants, you probably have very little control of the ingredients that you are going to eat. Yeah, so I don't think there's a lot of argument there. Now let's talk about mental energy. Let's bring back control again. You have more control of what you do. Now, control is not always something that you need to strive for. But if you want to control your health, also your mental health, then you need to take back control over what you eat as well. You cannot expect to be mentally stronger if you only eat outside. You can say, well, I decide whether I go to Burger King or McDonald's, or whether I go to Snappy Salad and eat a salad there. But even there, it's not always so clear if they only use organic ingredients and not. So that's that. A topic that I was actually thinking that I would talk about as a separate topic alone is actually there are a lot of other mental health benefits of cooking, and they become actually more clear if we go through all these 5 energies. But let me give you let me give it like this, right? If you go into therapy or go to coaching, you often have to go to a psychologist or a coach. But the whole activity of cooking has so much coaching elements, so that it is very easy actually to help someone with mental issues, and doesn't always have to be something had to do with trauma. It can just be mentally stronger, can be taught through cooking. Isn't that amazing? So let's take a few things. Planning. If you want to cook at home, you have to learn how to plan, which is a mental activity. And if you want to take bigger projects on in life, knowing how to plan is a really good quality to have. I would almost say it's an essential quality to have. Yeah. Then you have to, in a good sense, multitask, right? You have to do multiple things at the same time. You have to, watch watch when you're boiling someone, and when you chop things, and when you put things, you have to know the right order of things. So there's a lot of project management in cooking as well, and it's small, right? It's not like so big that it is. It could be life-threatening if you do it wrong, by the way, but you know what I mean, right? So you could do these things. You don't have to make, that meal that I'm showing behind me. Yeah, that's a big meal, right? You don't have to do that. You can start with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 dishes. Now, that might already scare you. So maybe you start with 1 dish. But even if you cook 1 dish, there's an order of operation in there, obviously. Right? So planning. And by doing that, actually, and if you start simple, if you're not a cook, and I don't want to call myself a cook, but I cook a lot. So I have a lot of confidence in some dishes, and in other dishes, I just don't know how it turns out. But mentally, I can build up and help myself to build up confidence, right? Maybe you just want to start with making cheese melt or something simple, or a sandwich, right? And when that goes well, you get positive feedback for the people that you feed, which we talk about a little bit later, then your confidence starts to build up. And then when you push yourself, remember, growth is always outside your comfort zone. So if you like to cook, start to, once in a while do things that you're not so familiar with, cook things maybe from other countries, or take on a little bit more dishes that you don't know, or maybe you want to make it more complex, and sometimes you want to maybe follow a recipe to the letter, right? And so on and so on. And then research clearly shows that food is a mood influencer, right? This research is done it's actually a quite intensive research, mostly done on the women in this case. So I have to, that's to be in all fairness and all openness. This research was done, but I think it's true for everyone. Is if you eat good food, you could do that in a restaurant too, by the way, then you have good mood. But the restaurant it's an event. No matter how often you go to a restaurant, it's an event, so that could change your mood. Strangely enough, when home cooking becomes like a habit, it actually could be a good mood change, and could go both ways. Let's be honest, right? If you have to do the dishes, maybe that's something that brings your mood down. So with nowadays, that doesn't have to be a big deal, or you make a good agreement with the people that you're in your household with, so you can manage all that. But yeah, there are downsides, of course, of mood and cooking as well. And if you don't know what to cook every day, it could become a burden a little bit. Oh, what shall I cook today? But if I'm talking about taking the food in, it is a mood changer, and you can manage the mood of other people very well with the food that you serve. And for me personally, because I like to cook, it's almost therapeutic. I love to cook and, feel the ingredients and stuff like that. We talk about that a little bit later too. So you can influence the mood, and most of the time in a positive way. So that's your mental energy. There's a lot to say about mental energy, but I would like to keep it in, 30, 40 minutes, because then I open up the after party on Zoom. So if you're listening to me here on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live and you want to join me and some other friends on the after party to talk about these things, just send us quickly a personal message. And then we can let you know how to join the after party. And some of you already have received the link of that as well, of course. Now, the third energy is your creative energy. Almost pretty obvious, I would say, that you need to have some creativity when you cook. And the more freedom you have in your cooking style, I like to cook Asian, where it's not always take exactly so many gram of this or this many ounces of that. It's just a little bit, what I feel, what do I have in the fridge, and I then start to cook something. So it definitely unlocks my creative energy, which, if you have read my book or if you followed me, is in a lot of adults' life, creative energy has gone down a lot, and it's essential for a happy and a successful life, right? So cooking in itself does that. The creative energy is also how we maintain relationships, right? Relationships. So cooking for someone else is just really nice to do. Eating food with someone else is really nice to do. Now, you can do that in a restaurant too, eating with someone else. But if you prepare the meal, even if you prepare the meal together, now, I'd rather cook alone, to be honest. But if you cook the meal together, that creates connections that I think I would challenge you to explore. So that's your creative energy. If it comes to manifestation energy, and you might think, yeah, Sean, what is that manifestation? And manifestation energy is anything that you see on the outside. What is it that you produce in life? Now, if you look at your life and you say, and your life is, difficult, and for a lot of people is they don't produce enough good stuff in life, literally what they leave behind. Cooking a good meal is very, gratifying, right? When it's, and you might not get it well the first time that you say, yesterday I made pea soup, Dutch pea soup. I should bring in a picture in here of the Dutch pea soup. It did that the first time that I made Dutch pea soup. Yeah, it's probably, I don't know how long time ago. It probably would not have been as good as it was right now. But here's the story, right? So I'm linking all these things together. One of my friends, he dropped off a piece of ham, literally, and I thought what to do with it. And I already had so much ham from the holidays. Oh, I think ham that makes a good soup base. And in this case, it makes a really good soup base for pea soup. So I went out, bought some peas, welled the peas and stuff like that. Look for some other ingredients as well. So that's some sort of a creative process, right? And I really produce something. I literally could put what was left in containers and stuff like that. It's tangible what I produced, and that's important. That if you live a life, anyone, and you don't produce something tangible, you miss out on something. So what is it that you leave behind? If you then, like me, you cook for someone else, you can also see what the impact is of what you produced. So it's a very direct result. And a lot of things that we do in life, we don't always see the results of the things that we produce, negative or positive. In this case, I can. Right? Does that make sense? That's how strong that is. The other thing that I want to say, if it comes to manifestation, it's a time saver. Home cooking. Is it? No, Jean, that cannot be true. There's nothing going as fast as going to McDonald's and eat your meal. Yeah, okay, that I probably cannot beat that. Right? But if it comes to somewhat healthy meals, so you have to go a little bit to better restaurants to get those, right? And compare it to home cooking over time, I can guarantee you save more time. Because I made soup and I can eat it, I can put it in the freezer if I don't want it immediately, but I can eat it now for lunch again, which I don't have to go out because I already cooked. So, talked a little bit about planning. You you could cook some meals that you can, reuse or just warm up, and you could cook it in such a way that maybe your dinner of today is also your lunch for tomorrow, right? So it's a big time saver, more than you think, actually. It's a money saver for sure. Right? It's a money saver. Did you know that on average, and this is shocking, right? On average, a home cooked meal is around $4 to $5, right? Or euro. It's probably not so much different in Europe, right? And on average, right, eating outside is 5 times higher. It's 5 times higher. If you only eat at McDonald's, it's probably 2 times higher, right? To get the same meal, you can't even get that. If you say, hey, but I do these meal kits like from, what are these called? Blue Ribbon and Blue Apron, I'm sorry, not Blue Ribbon, and Eat Fresh, or, those are the two big ones, I believe. By the way, that's an enormous growing industry to get a meal kit. If you don't know what a meal kit is, I didn't know what it was before because I cook, so I don't look so much at it. But basically, you order something online, you get a box of ingredients, some of the things that you still have to kind of cook a little bit yourself, so you get a little bit in what I'm getting to, and the other things are already ready, but all the measurements are already done. You only have to put it together, but that's still at least twice as much more price than when you do a full home cooked meal. And again, like I said, you don't have full control over the ingredients, and so on and so on, and a lot of the creativity that you should have is going away. So all in all, home cooked meals, whether you do takeout, whether you do even a meal kit, which is a super growing industry, by the way, which you could maybe manage a little bit more to get more healthy. It's a huge, huge, huge money saver. It's a huge money saver, right? And DoorDash and all these things right now, we have them because of COVID, but all these things cost a lot of money. So, of course, if you order your grocery at the moment, let them come home. Okay, then that costs a little bit of extra money too. But if you do that well, you can save a lot of time and money. So, manifestation energy, big on if it comes to home cooking. And then last but not least, that's the divine energy. You think, okay, that's where, more your spiritual life plays in. What? Your food has something to do with that as well? Yeah, of course. First of all, that's partly also under your what I call creative energy, but the time you spend with others is to give appreciation of the food. If you're Christian, maybe, or probably in other religions do, a lot of people do that. They give thanks for the food that they have, which is some sort of a spiritual life. Now, you can do that in a restaurant too, by the way. So that doesn't have to be a much of a difference, right? Giving thanks. We do, of course, with food, home-cooked meals is a little bit more known when we have special holidays, which is good too, right? But here is where I think it hits the divine energy the most, right? Is because you get way more appreciation if because you touch the produce, you work with it, right? You get way more feeling that we live in a holistic world and all things are all connected. If I have to explain that organic food is better to someone who never cooks, it's a way harder problem to do that than when I do that to people who actually know and feel how it is to, to cut a tomato, and they feel when it's a good tomato and when it's not, and what we do when we don't use good produce. So they get a good appreciation of the world around us. Cooking is really well. And if I can tie it back a little bit, and if you want to give that to your children, which I think falls also under the divine energy, is, pass on what you know, including your kids in cooking your meal, also set them up in the future for eating better and appreciate that better. My daughter has a little bit more interest in cooking than my son, but my son starts to do it as well. And if he has to cook, he probably asks to cook a hamburger, but at least he makes a hamburger at home. I don't think that's a bad thing either. My daughter has a lot of interest in how to cook Asian food, and she starts to appreciate the ingredients and what are not, and what are good ingredients and not, and that if you buy cheap, that you don't always get the good ingredients. So she learns how, or sometimes you just, if you go to a different store, then you get the same thing for a lower price. So they learn skills of budgeting and stuff like that as well. All things that you can get with home cooked meals. So skipping home cooked meals, right, which is definitely something that is happening around the world, specifically in the Western world, is not only, because we lost a skill of truly cooking, which is one thing, but number one, we miss out on a lot of health benefits, physical, mental. Number two, we miss out on a lot of financial benefits, right? And number three, we miss out on a lot of relational benefits, right? And I don't know about you, but I think I mentioned at least one or three of the 5 most important components that you need to have for a happy and a healthy life. So if you're not a cook, it's not as difficult as you think. It's a lot of fun, or at least hook up with someone who is a home cook, right? So that you get that benefit as well. But try to bring that back into your life. There's a lot of fun, and food is something we need every day, like air. So as we need to look in, do we live in an area where we can have good air? Think about what you put in your mouth, so to speak, right? Because garbage in is garbage out. And that is true for the information that we take to us, but it's also true for the physical things that we literally put into our body. Yeah, does that make sense? Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed that topic. It was maybe slightly different address than you expected, right? So this was Jean with The Place. One more time, hopefully you like this episode of The Place and the Everyday Life Lesson podcast. It was number 194. I hope to see you back next week. Don't forget to subscribe. Next week we come up with a different topic. If there is something that you want me to talk about, then just, send me a personal message and I will look into that and probably address that whenever there is time for that. Okay? This was Jean. If you want to join me on Zoom, again, send me a personal message as well. And for all the other people who know the Zoom link already, I'll see you there in a few minutes. All right. Bye-bye.